it's fun, but normally when they know I have to go, they start
Yeah.
demanding for extra things. So
Yes, it's kind of a little bit of blackmail, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well,
So
here we are. Alhamdulillah. We have, I don't know how many people we've got online right now, half dozen or so. Most of them, I think they're from my group of students and colleagues. And we'd like to get your ideas, Baba. I don't have any particular questions for you, but I have a kind of a leading statement
okay.
that I'd like to share before I hand the talking stick to you. And I want to say to everyone, thank you for coming. I'm really very appreciative of those who kind of, you know, stick to the core of the Qibla in which Allah has put me on. And I'm thinking that those who are gathered here, especially at a moment like this, are on the same Qibla. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we're all on the same Qibla. We're just not all, how do you say, treating it as consciously as we possibly could. I mean, let me look at this way. And Baba, listen carefully. And if I say something that doesn't quite fit with the Quran, I would love for you to correct me, please.
Yeah.
Um, because you're the correctional officer, and I'm of a mind to make you the warden of all correctional officers. Not that you want to be the warden, but hey, leaders get drafted; they don't run for office. That's
Yeah.
the way it is. Okay,
Yeah.
and I think we all know that and agree on it. And anybody who's running for office is working for the wrong side of the Qibla. Let me put it that way. Now, in the center of our solar system, we have this, what some cosmologists call the Great Attractor. And I don't think anybody really knows what it is, but they do know that everything in the universe, in everything in our solar system, is headed towards the center. You see, it's like a, I don't know, suction cup. Some people think it's a black hole, but it's not the typical black hole that you see NASA talking about and all these other people talking about. There's something different about this thing, and I just had I put together a little bit of cosmology a few years ago, and I went to three preeminent Muslim um, astrophysicists for my to document my approach. I'm not a cosmologist. I only did it because my students at the time in university said, "Hey, nobody's talking about cosmology. Would you please tell us about cosmology?" And I scratched my head. I said, "I don't know anything about it." So I had to do my own research. And so I turned to these gentlemen. One was Pakistan's nuclear physicist leader. He's the one that got them going in that direction. I don't remember his name. There were two others. One was in America, University of Maryland. The other fellow was in Sri Lanka. And they put their heads together. Well, I put their heads together because I got all this stuff together and I put together this lecture on cosmology. I learned about this great attractor, you see, in the center of the solar system. So when I say we're on Qibla, it looks like everything in this solar system is headed that way. You see, everything outside the solar system is heading away from us, it seems, but we're heading towards the center of the solar system to this great detractor. And from what the physicists say, astrophysicists say, everything that goes into that detractor is never seen again. And if it is seen again, ain't no way we're going to see it, you know, not in this life. So something's happening there. And so the analogy is here, well, okay, well, we're all, according to the Quran, especially this wonderful surah that I heard you mention last week, I think it was, Baba, the ones who kneel, the ones called kneeling, we're all going to be kneeling, outside the perimeter of hell. And then there comes the judgment, okay? And those who Allah is pleased with, or for whatever reason, maybe He's not pleased, but maybe they just didn't pass the test because they weren't qualified to take it. You know, you got all kinds of handicapped people and children who die prematurely and they're not responsible. So I don't know, but there's people who are going to be chosen to stay out of hell for whatever reason Allah chooses. Okay, it's not our choice. We have to depend on grace, and I'm hoping that my good deeds will qualify. And in any case, we're all heading towards this day of reckoning, this
Mm.
judgment day.
Yeah.
And some of us, and so it's all the same Qibla, is what I'm saying. Everything in our solar system's heading towards the Great Attractor, and every human being on the face of this earth is returning to Allah, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's pretty straightforward. So, with that as an opening statement, I would like you, Baba, since, look, I'm an outsider looking in. Okay, I had my foot in the secular world, in the Christian world, in the esoteric, mysterious world for decades in most of my life. And then 20 years ago, I become a Muslim and I've got the other foot in Islam. And so I'm kind of an outsider. One fellow from Africa, not unlike yourself, I don't remember his name, he said, I'm the perfect one to make some criticisms because I'm an outsider on the inside now, and I got my foot in both schools or both worlds. But you, Baba, you've come up through the system. You've come up through the madrasa. You've been beaten by your teachers and probably cussed at by them for, not wagging your finger at the right time and all that silly stuff that they say is necessary for salvation, and none of it is necessary for salvation as far as I can see.
Yeah.
Let me add one more thing before I hand you the mic here, Baba. I read a book. One of my students trying to convert me to Sufism gave me a book by this fellow named Gilani a few years ago, and so I finally got around to reading it. And it's about his journey. He was, I guess, he's a Sufi of Sufis or something like that. And I started reading this book, and I'm halfway through the book, and I say, hey, this stuff is happening to me. Most of what he's talking about, I've already experienced, and I haven't done any of the Sufi stuff. So I'm thinking to myself, well, this is before I really began to become part of the revisionist movement. I was still intimidated by the Muslims who were born Muslims. I mean, I'm an outsider, I'm a convert, I'm not quite on par with them, and I don't speak Arabic and all this stuff. So I'm thinking, hey, how come Jilani, the Sufi of Sufis, had the same thing happen to him that's happening to me? And I don't do the Sufi stuff. So I'm saying, hey, something's wrong, you know, with these people who have come up through the system of what is called, I guess, fundamental Islam or Islam itself or whatever. These people who consider themselves to be Muslims, but yet they're not getting the Rahim grace that Jilani spoke of in his book. I was getting it. I'm living it now still, you see. So I'm thinking, hey, something's wrong. Baba, what's wrong with the Ummah? What's the state of the Ummah in now that they're not experiencing this grace? Or if there are other people who are experiencing this Rahim grace, what are they doing to get it, in your opinion? So I just want to get your impression here because you're well spoken, you're very astute in your observations, and there's so much confusion going on. I don't know what's happening on the street because I don't hang out with the Sunnis. I don't hang out with any of them anymore. I haven't gone to Jum'ah in years, and I used to know, what they appeared to be like, you see, but I don't know what's going on now. I'm in the middle of Kentucky on a farm. There's no madrasa, there's no masjid, there's no Muslim here in the town. We're the only ones. And we don't look like Muslims, you see. So and people ask me and say, well, what are you going to do? What should we do? I say, well, don't start looking like a Muslim anymore. Okay, it's not that safe. Okay, in certain places. So, Baba, please, what's happened to the Ummah, or what is happening to the Ummah? And I see you see so much confusion going on. You are trying to correct this confusion as best as you can. What's happened? Where is the Ummah today? Why is there so much consternation and so many dialogues where people are just sort of, I don't know, canceling each other's narratives? Well, what is going on, inshallah? Alhamdulillah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Omar Zaid. Thank you for this honor. I seek refuge with God against the accursed devil. This is an important question and very relevant one, as a matter of fact. But before I go into that aspect, let me just give a point on what you said earlier concerning whatever is leading us to the Qibla, which is the focus or focal or direction. In Quran chapter 39, verse 61, on the day of judgment, one can only be saved by his achievement. Just as a worker or an employee can only be paid by the employer based on his achievements. Right? So similarly, God is going to recompense, or how will I say, repay us based on the achievement we have achieved, because He has stipulated for us whatever is good and bad. He has shown us what we need to do to get His grace. So it is already stipulated. That's why He brought a book as a guidance, a book of guidance. So just as we have a navigator, if you drive cars or vehicles, we need a navigator to help us maneuver around and go to the right destinations. Similarly, God has given us a book of guidance to lead us out of darkness into the light.
Yes.
That is Quran chapter 14, verse 1. So coming to the main question you asked, the state of the Ummah and what we are facing on how to rectify these issues. Quran chapter 103, right? That is Surah Al-Asr, chapter of the epoch or era or time, we can say. God gives us the gist or the clue as to how to solve these issues. We are in the era where people are not truthful in every aspect of life. People are not truthful. People lack patience. People are impatient, right? So even if we demand for something, we are not patient for it. We need it in a hurry. Yes, and people are not truthful. May it be our leaders, may it be you name it, our doctors, whatever they are. Most of them, I'm not saying everybody, but most of them are not truthful. The politicians, you mentioned, the clergymen, the scholars. So in that chapter, God gives us the clue. He says, by the era, indeed, the human being is in loss. He says, Innal insana lafil khusr. Lafi khusr. Khusr means to be in limbo. You're lost. Then he gave us the exception. Then he says, except those who believe, meaning they believe in God. The reason why the best word to use is believe is we never saw God. We have never seen God before. We don't know how He looks like. We don't know what He is. We don't know, unless the book tells us who He is, right? So we put our faith there. So that is belief. So unless those who believe, because we believe, we do as He says, because we put our trust in Him. And then we do the righteous works. So righteousness, it is pertaining to the betterment of humanity. When we say do righteous works, it is not about only trying to use it to serve God. You're using that for the betterment of humanity. Things like giving charity, right? Making sure that your neighbor is well and able. Making sure you do the right things to keep a generation or countries moving in the right direction, instead of being in a corrupt state and facing prejudice and other things. So you do righteous deeds, that's the good deeds, and you hand down watawasaw bil haq. So you, if you are truthful, you, the truthful one, can only hand down truthfulness to another person. Because
Yes.
if you are not truthful, there's no way you can hand down truthfulness to the next person behind you.
Yes.
You see, so and this person will hand down with the truth and hand down with what? Patience. Because these two things move together. People
Mm.
who are usually patient are truthful people.
Mm.
People who are usually not patient are usually not truthful.
Mm.
Yes. Because in a haste, a person is in haste because it's either he doesn't want to be caught. So he
Mm.
has to be in a hurry. The
Mm.
person who is patient enough
Mhm.
knows he's not scared of anything. He has nothing to
Mhm.
lose.
Mm.
So he is patient. He will wait for
Mm.
the right moment to execute or to achieve his means. So
Mm.
this clue, this chapter 103, even though it is one of the shortest chapters in the Quran, with three
Mhm.
verses, it gives you the clue or the gist of why corruptions or generations go downwards.
Mhm.
Yes. When the truthfulness is out of the equation and patience is out of the equation, then
Mhm.
such a nation or such people are going to be in loss. So
Mhm.
this is the clue from God. Now, coming to the notion why we find ourselves in such a state. Because according to Quran chapter 43, verse 78, God says he has brought us the truth, but most of us hate the truth. He says, we have brought you the truth, but most of you hate the truth.
Mhm.
People by nature hate the truth.
Mm.
And when people hate the truth, it means instead of using rationality, they rather use emotions first.
Mm.
So we are in a generation where people are very, very sensitive and emotional, especially on
Mm.
social media.
Mhm.
You say one thing, another group goes against what you say. They say,
Mm.
no, this guy is anti this, anti that, anti this,
Mhm.
anti that.
Mhm.
So you don't have any freedom of say or speech anymore.
Mhm.
You understand?
Mm.
So it is just like we are in a prison, and this is why they call the mobile phones or gadgets we use, which is a cell phone. We are in a prison whereby
Mm.
uh, people think what they have to comment on by typing their opinions really matters.
Yes.
You see, they think it can make a
Mhm.
difference. Like for instance, Israel and Palestine fighting. You see people typing online say free Israel or free Palestine." Don't give,
Mhm.
like your comments makes nothing.
Yes.
People don't. You have to go through the right means to stop something. You don't just
Mhm.
write your opinions, your point of view. It cannot harm a fly, neither can it save a fly. So people don't
Mhm.
understand all this, right? And this is why, with the help of God, I accepted the name correctional officer because
Mhm.
correctional officer doesn't care so far as you are guilty. He doesn't care about who you are or what you put yourself into.
Right.
Correctional officer is bearing the name correctional officer because things must be done correctly.
Mhm.
You see, so I don't go about talking about things I don't know. No, I don't do that.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
Quran chapter 17, verse 36 says, do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge about.
Yes.
Yes, do not pursue. So I don't
Mhm.
involve myself in things I don't know. When I
Mhm.
know, I speak up. And when I speak up with audacity. I don't
Audacity. That's right. Yeah.
exactly. I don't speak up like I'm scared or I'm trying to be a phony. No, I don't do that. I
Mhm.
go all out. So
Yes.
people who don't understand the position I'm speaking from or my perspective, they find me as an aggressor.
Mhm. Yes.
You understand? And
Mhm.
whilst forgetting to keep themselves in check because they are trying to present their emotions instead of
Mhm.
resonating with the rationality I'm bringing on board. So
Mhm.
this is why when I make videos and I pinpoint certain attitudes people are displaying against God or the norms that God has stipulated for us, People think I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to be harsh or rude against such an opposition.
Mm-hmm.
That's not
Yes.
the point. The point is the same audacity we have to speak up against our politicians and our leaders and our clergymen out there. We should use the same tactics to speak up any injustice or anybody trying to lie to the people.
Yes.
Yeah. You see,
Mm-hmm.
so we are in a generation whereby we rather want to give the devil the chance to be dominant,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whilst the truth is being silenced. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
saying which says, when you refuse to be silent, people will tag you as violent.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because you have to speak up for the truth. You have to speak up against injustice. You have to speak up against corruption. You have to speak up against falsehood. Quran chapter 47, verse 2. In Quran chapter 47, verse 2, Surah to Muhammad, chapter of Muhammad, God gave us two criteria of two groups. If you read chapter 47, verse 2 to verse 3, in 47, verse 2, it tells you those who believe and believe in what was revealed to Muhammad, which is the truth, God will actually expiate their sins for them and he will
Mm-hmm.
improve their situation or their attention. But then he showed us the other group.
Mm-hmm.
Those who disbelieve, they are rather following falsehood. And when they follow falsehood, it appears on them. You can see the falsehood design on them because
Mm-hmm.
it leads them to be corrupt. It leads them to be unjust. It leads them to be transgressors. It leads them
Mm-hmm.
to act as like hypocrites.
Yes.
Yes. So uh, the other day, a brother was telling me that, look in the Middle East, this is what is going on. People are dying, and Saudi Arabia is organizing boxing matches, boxing games. And I was like, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they know more than you that there's a fighting going on because they
Mm-hmm.
already know the foundations of the fight. So why should they
Mm-hmm.
interfere? What they already know. You
Mm-hmm.
see, they know. That's why they don't interfere. And they don't interfere. They know you, the one talking on the social media, you don't have power to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, they're the ones who have power, they are silent. So then you should ask yourself, why are they silent? There's something
Mm-hmm.
which people are not being told.
Mm-hmm.
That's why these people are silent. So everything happens for a reason. Nothing happens just happening for happening's sake. No, everything in this world happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes are we being told the reasons? No. Because sometimes you can't handle the truth. When you are told you can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So be it injustice, be it justice, both ways, if you are told the truth, you can't handle it. So
Mm-hmm.
the ones who actually denote or can deduce that this is actually an injustice and they have the power to speak up to make the right changes, they have to speak up. If they have the power to fix it, they fix it. So we saw the example of King Solomon, Prophet Sulaiman
Mm-hmm.
in the Quran. He used his power as a veto power against corruption, against
Mm-hmm.
evil, against transgression. He used his power. You see? Then we saw Lot, Prophet Lot, when he doesn't have power to stop the homosexuals, what he did, he called on God as a support.
Mm-hmm.
God actually sent him a support to help him out, to save him
Mm-hmm.
away from the corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're working with corrupt people and you are not corrupt, the more you keep working with corrupt people, you will become one of them.
Yes, of course.
Definitely. So what happens is, so far as you don't want the corrupt people to work with you, the only thing you have to do is speak up the truth against them because
Mm.
people need the truth. Now, the moment you speak the truth, they don't want to work with you anymore. And
Yes.
that is why a lot of us end up losing friends because when we
Mm-hmm.
speak up, the friend cannot swallow the pill. So they end up stop talking to you. They don't call you. They don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, such a person is not a friend from day one.
Mm-hmm.
A friend in need is a friend indeed. So if that friend is a real friend, they will not stop talking to you because you speak the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. They will not stop talking to you. They will still stick with you, regardless of if they don't agree with you. They will stick with you. That is a real friend, which means they are not pretending to just be friends. They are realistically your friend. So what we found ourselves in generations like this, it has become a societal norm around you. People only practice religion to just show off as an organization, as a union. It has nothing to do with God as we speak right now. The form of doctrines people are practicing, I don't think it involves God anymore. It is just like it's just like politics. You know, people are using religion to make it like a party, like a partisan, like, you know, just following a party, a political party, being loyal to the party, but it has nothing to do with the leader of the party. You just be loyal.
Yes,
So
gotcha.
this is what we found ourselves. So when you speak up against even clergymen lying to the people, not telling people the truth, they start to hate you because they don't like you anymore. They prefer you to be silent, even though you know the truth. They will say, okay, keep quiet. If it's the truth, keep it to yourself. They'll tell you, keep it to yourself. Don't tell us. So we in the position of seeing what injustice is and can speak up for the masses to hear. We have to use our mouthpiece to say the right things or the truth, or to exhort people to be patient at the right time, not at the wrong time, at the right time, so that we can be part of people who are a part of people who are successful in every generation or in this generation. Because if we are not truthful and we are not patient, according to God, chapter 103, we cannot find ourselves among those who will be successful in that era.
Oh dear.
So what we have is we just have a time where uh, I give you an example.
Okay.
From my workplace where I work in the sales and marketing department. Now, when I deal with a client, when I deal with people, and they ask me for options, I will just explain every option that they need to buy whatever they want to buy. After explaining the options, then I tell them, this is better than this, but then you decide. Then the person will be like, okay, Baba Shuaib, why don't you choose it for me? I said, no, I don't make decisions for people. You decide for yourself. I'm only leading you to the decision, then you decide.
Yes.
Because I don't actually know your taste. But however, I can explain the taste for you, then you can weigh the options and choose the one you want. We are in a generation like people want you to actually go fetch the food for them and put it in their mouth.
Yes.
They don't want to make an effort
Yes.
to help themselves. So this is why the corruption keeps getting bigger, injustice keeps getting bigger, everything going downwards instead of upwards. We are rather regressing in life instead of progressing. You understand? People are
Yes.
becoming dumber instead of smarter. So it's going to the opposite direction instead of the right direction. You know, back in the days when a kid is growing up, they are very smart when it comes to calculation, mathematics. Now they want to rely on, you know, the gadgets instead of focusing on their, you know, intelligence and whatever have you. So, what I can say about how to rectify such issues is first of all, teach people how to raise up their IQ. When I mean the IQ is very, very important, intelligence quotient of a person. For instance, when I'm dealing with people per se, I try to check their level of IQ before I pass on whatever I want to pass on to them. When I find people very argumentative, I don't stress myself to explain myself. No, I just stop it. I don't explain myself further. So people who don't know this might think I'm just being arrogant against somebody. No, it's like uh, if you check the story in chapter 18, verse 82 of the Quran, 60, verse 65 to 82 of the Quran,
Hmm.
Prophet Moses, that is Musa, he went to seek for knowledge. When he went to seek for knowledge, the teacher, whilst the teacher was teaching him, he was being argumentative.
Yes.
And then after 3 lessons, the teacher parted ways with him. He told him, "This
Hmm.
is where we part ways."
Hmm.
It doesn't mean the teacher was arrogant. No.
Yes, of course.
It's just that the teacher cannot tolerate such an attitude going forward.
Yes.
Yeah, it's stressful. You
Well,
see, so
it's not only stressful, it's not productive.
it's not productive. That's the point,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
me being also in a similar fashion or position, I encounter people as such. And
Hmm.
sometimes I will just meet somebody who is trying to ask me questions to get some clarity. And then it seems the person is being argumentative. And I'm telling the person, how far have you gone researching this topic? Then the
Hmm.
person would say, I just started. And I say, you just started and you're arguing with me?
Yes.
You see? So I'll be like, you just started and you're arguing with me. I've already passed that
Hmm.
level. You were just
Hmm.
jumping on.
Yes.
The angle you are looking at it from is not a contradiction, but you will
Hmm.
see it as a contradiction. So not
Hmm.
till you come up. So I give this analogy, this example.
Yes, of
You see,
course.
academically, when a kid start going to school, and let's say he start from the elementary stage.
Hmm.
When we start from the first stage, class one, you are being taught that alphabet and numbers should not be joined together. So
Hmm.
numbers are separate, alphabets are separate. But growing up, you get to a stage, maybe stage 5, stage 6, they start to teach you fraction and mathematics, mixing numbers and
Hmm.
letters together. Yes,
Yes.
you write x plus y is equal to z,
Hmm.
find x, and if you give this equation to a little kid, he'll be looking at you as if you're crazy. Because to a little kid, this doesn't make sense because at his stage, he's being told don't mix the numbers with the alphabet.
Hmm.
So, how do you expect to let this make sense to a kid who hasn't gotten to that level yet?
Hmm.
You get the point. So,
Of course.
yes, at this stage, it will be very stressful. So, the only thing you can say is enough. It's okay.
Hmm.
You can't explain yourself
Yes.
because it is a gradual process.
Mm.
So, if something took me years to come by it, you
Hmm.
see people who just expect you to just answer them this kind of issues with a blink of
Hmm.
an eye.
Mm.
They just expect you to just say. The other day, somebody was asking me a question, and I gave him a reply. I said, "This issue cannot just be answered by typing to you. It
Hmm.
can be answered by phone call or a video discussion." And then he's like, "No, I can understand." I said, "No, you can't."
Yes.
He still insists. I gave him the verse and the reference. He went
Hmm.
and read it. He didn't see it.
Hmm.
Then I said, "You see, I'm talking to you based on experience because I deal with people. I deal with hundreds of people. As a matter of fact, right now we are talking. I have about 40 messages waiting for me on my other phone. Yeah, I'm
I
yet
see.
to check it
Hmm.
because sometimes I want to be free in the head before I approach it because it's
Of
about
course.
asking questions and so on. So
Mm.
for some people, when I interact with them 1 or 2 times, I know their level of IQ. So I know I can
Hmm.
reply them and they can understand. But for
Hmm.
the other people, I can't do the same tactics. I can use the same tactics for them.
Hmm.
It's just worthless for me to
Mm.
even try. So what
Yes.
I do is I'll try interact with the person verbally, then I'll give them analogies or examples in life. Then they can
Hmm.
connect the dots via the examples. And this is why academically, when we go to the classroom, the teacher, before the teacher finishes teaching any topic or subject, the teacher must give you several examples so that
Mm.
you can connect the dots easily,
Yes.
right? But some people don't understand this. And when we say the Quran is a book for mankind, it's a guidance for mankind, people think when you
Mm.
just take the Quran straight, you just understand it.
Mm.
You, this is the example. A
Hmm.
navigator for driving, the navigator is made for people driving vehicles. But it doesn't necessarily mean every driver knows how to use the navigator.
Correct.
Yes. So you need to learn how to use it. Then now can make sense so that you don't go to the wrong direction.
Mm.
So this same applies with the book of guidance, like the Quran, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's for mankind, but God explicitly says this is for those who possess intelligence. Every Dick, Tom, and Harry cannot just go and take the book and then pretend they know what it says. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we can have levels of understanding when we take notions of topics to discuss, right? Uh, in the Quran, there are things you can take literally, and there are things you can also take non-literally.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always go in a literal instance.
Mm.
However, we have issues when they are stipulated to us. For instance, we have laws, we have judgments.
Mm.
Laws and judgments can only be agreed upon.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just take one person to just pass a law. No, it has to be agreed upon
Mm-hmm.
by consensus that, okay, this is what it is. So now we all pledge the allegiance to the law and that we are okay
Yes.
with it. Then it can
Mm-hmm.
take effect. That anybody who breaks this law, then we know which judgment will be used. So this is
Mm-hmm.
how it goes, and this is why I commend the prince, King Salman of Saudi Arabia,
Mm-hmm.
for when he took the stand against the hadith books, and he says they have to trim down most of the hadiths out and then deal with the ones which actually make sense. Of course, I don't, to that extent, he has done well, but I wish they could even eradicate all those type of books out. I'm serious. Because those books doesn't have authority in Islam. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
authority in Islam. But however,
Mm-hmm.
Rome was not built in a day. You start from somewhere and you get somewhere.
Yes.
So if you have started trimming, that makes sense. It will get to a point they will even cast all out, you know.
Mm.
And so these are one of the movements or ways you go ahead to try to get people closer to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you might not be able to bring people to the truth realistically, but you can try your
Mm-hmm.
best to get them closer to the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for now, this is what I can say. If you have anything to say, then we can go on as well. Yeah.
Yes, I do have something to say in response. It's more of a question, actually, but I would like to ask our um, fellows who are, and ladies and gentlemen who are joining to us, if you have any questions, please get them ready. We will open the mics in just a few minutes. Um, Regarding the First of all, there was a note here I made just a minute ago. Yeah. It is, while you were talking, it came to mind that what you were describing was a kind of a lack of reality orientation, you see, on the part of many who consider themselves to be Muslim or even human, for that matter. I mean, we're all on a path of becoming, well, we're human, but we're not necessarily the best humans we can become, and we're trying to become the Khalifa, you see, whatever that really entails. But that's a responsible position. That one of my students just said, "Well, what do you think is going to happen in the hereafter?" And I said, "Well, I thought about this years ago, even when I was a Christian, and I never liked the idea of sitting on a cloud, strumming a harp and saying, hallelujah for eternity. I enjoy working, and I hope there's work for me to do in the hereafter. And I'm kind of leaning in that direction. So if Allah wants us to become Khalifa, then there's got to be another purpose for that. And I think that's part of our development. So we're kind of trying to develop and become this Caliph. At least some of us are. And um, what holds us up is we don't have this reality orientation. And well, the Quran is very clear about that. Well, if you don't have it on Judgment Day, you're going to get it. You see, so um, I am of a mind that it's better to get it now. And part of getting that, you see, I think is to what led me to the Quran was my study of the previous scriptures. and also the parascriptural literature, which is, gosh, there's just so much of it. And I think that some of what you mentioned here in the Hadith, I don't think they're necessarily need to be taken as an authority, but I've heard. My question has to do with the Hadith now. Then, after you answer that, we'll open the floor to other questions, if you like, and if we have time, and if you can take the time, sir. Um, what I've heard some people say, okay, well, there's all these Hadith, 200,000 numbers, so I mean, who can, encompass that? Um, but others have said that, well, of those 200,000, we can only rely on maybe 5 to 7,000. And when I heard that from a well respected scholar, I said, well, tell us what they are. Where are they? Which ones are they? Where are these 5 or 7,000 hadith? What are they? And no one's telling us that. But I think that there are probably some hadith which can be of some use in this time of confusion. Would you agree with that, or shall we just put them all aside? I mean, I have some old books that I've set aside for years. Okay, then every once in a while I see it sitting on the shelf, and I say, "Oh yeah, that's where I should go." And so I open it up, and there was something in the back of my mind that'd been, churning. And there's the answer in that book, which I had set aside for years, you see. So I'm just thinking, well, if there are 500, 600, 1,000, maybe 7,000 of these things that are relatively reliable, if you knew what they were, would you refer to them? You see, or do you think they could be helpful? Um, Nothing comes to mind at the moment because I set them aside, But I have so many students who want to argue, and a great part of the division has to do with this hadith literature. You see, because they're people who make a religion out of it, and they hold the religion of hadith higher than the religion of Al Quran, and Al Quran is not a religion; it's a guide. You see, so the hadith, they kind of tell us some of the human aspects which the Quran doesn't necessarily seem to address. But are there helpful hadith? Have you found any of them to be of help? And if you did, would you share that with us? What do you think, brother?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. When we say hadith,
Mm-hmm.
hadith is narration,
Yes.
this discourse. It can be
Mm-hmm.
discussion based on the
Mm-hmm.
context it is used, but it has
Mm-hmm.
a lot of meanings. But usually it's a discourse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in every aspect of life, we can have, even when we are talking about entertainment, there could be a discourse.
Mm-hmm.
When we are talking about politics, there could be a discourse. When we are talking about every aspect of life, there could be a discourse. But when we are talking about God, then we also have discourse pertaining to God. Now, when it comes to the deen, the religion or doctrine, when it comes to serving God, the way of life in which you have to serve God, you don't associate anything with God.
Mm-hmm.
So, with God, that's a separate issue also.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a hadith, a narration, a discourse
Mm-hmm.
telling you that you have to eat fruits, you see, it's a good suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with about serving God.
Of course.
So, regardless of where it's coming from, so far as
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense, you can adapt it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yes.
But the moment you impose it on people
Mm-hmm.
and saying, this is what God commanded,
Mm-hmm.
this is what the messenger of God commanded,
Mm-hmm.
this is what the prophet of God said, you are associating that statement with God.
And that's a form of shirk.
Good. So that's where the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have friends who are sectarians, who are Sunnis and so on. When we meet one-on-one, we have discussion, we have friendly discussion, we don't fight.
Mm-hmm.
We understand. I have no problem if they want to use the hadith. But in front of me, you tell me God says that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I tell you no. My you're lying. I will say it's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
a lie. God never authorized that book.
Mm-hmm.
Neither did even the prophet authorize that book. But it doesn't mean when you go to the garbage, it doesn't mean you don't find anything useful.
Yes.
People do get things from the trash,
Mm-hmm.
useful
Yes.
things. But does that mean if I have everything brand new and good, do I need something from the trash? The answer is no. You see the difference? So
Yes.
the God I serve will not tell me go to the trash and go and take something useful.
Oh, I like this analogy. That's very good.
So that's the point. So I don't have a problem if somebody can take something of sense or wisdom to you
Mm-hmm.
pertain
Mm-hmm.
to his life. I have no objection.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that is part of serving God, no, there's a problem. So that's
Mm-hmm.
where my contention comes in. That's where I have problem with people, and that is why I try to let people differentiate between what God says and
Yes.
men are talking about. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? So that's the issue. So now we are dealing with a lot of things that scientists tell us. Science will tell you, oh, after eating, wait for a bit before you drink water, or oh, it is good to drink water
Mm-hmm.
with salination to put some salt and drink. It helps your metabolism or it helps your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So these are all good discourse. And in Arabic, we will just say the hadiths. They are just some
Mm-hmm.
things that you read and you can implement, but it has nothing to do with serving God.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the matters of God, we have to separate it. Quran chapter 4, verse 36. I
Mm-hmm.
repeat, Quran chapter 4, verse 36. God says we should serve him and we should not associate anything with him.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people know of this? In that verse, he says anything. He didn't even say anyone yet. He says
Mm-hmm.
anything, thing.
And
We
yes,
should not associate.
anything. I
Yes.
got that. I heard you. Yeah.
Then in Quran chapter 18, verse 110, he said we should serve God and should not associate anyone with him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in 436, he says anything. In 18, 110, he says anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So now, why is it that people, whenever they want to tell about God, so now it's no more about God, they stop talking about God and said the prophet said, somebody said, the Khalifa said, Umar said, and then
Mm-hmm.
they will tell you it is part of the service of God. How?
Mm-hmm.
You understand? That does not make sense anymore. So
Yes.
that is where it becomes nonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't go to the trash and take something and go and force a rich man that he should use it.
Yes.
It doesn't,
Excellent.
it will not resonate to the rich
Mm,
man. He'll tell you, hey man,
right.
I can buy a new one. Why do I
Mhm.
need to use the one from the trash?
Right, right, right.
So
Mhm.
so which means that shouldn't be for everybody. If they want to use it, fine, that's up to them. But to
Mhm.
somebody, it can be a trash. You see,
Mhm.
so somebody can say, oh, I'm going to buy a Tesla. Somebody says, no, to me, Tesla is trash. Well,
Mhm.
that's, you don't understand. So,
Mhm.
because it's not mandatory for everybody to have the same, line.
Mhm.
But I'm not saying when I'm from my standing point of view, when I'm trying to tell people this is not good, this is garbage, this is what I'm trying to let people is I need the intellectual ones to ask me the question why. Why do you
Yes.
say this is garbage? And many a times when they approach me, they make sense out of it. They
Mhm.
finally understand why I say things like that.
Mhm.
Then they were
Yes.
like, okay, yeah, I get your point. I said, we
Mhm.
can go to the hadith. Look, I do quote some hadiths to people which make sense.
Mhm.
I do quote it, yes. I quote it, but what I tell the people is I don't believe it's coming from the prophet.
Mhm.
Because it's not mandatory for me to believe that it's coming from the prophet. It's not mandatory. If it's
Mhm.
mandatory, the challenge is they should show me from the book of God where it says I have to believe in such books telling
Yes.
me about the
Yes.
prophet. So that's the difference.
I
But
got
of course,
it.
you
Yeah.
can find something of knowledge. I tell some of my audience who listen to me or who interact with, I say, try your best to read Hadith books. Study it.
Mm-hmm.
You can get some things there, yes, and sometimes you can use it for argument's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense because
Yes.
some parts make sense. You can use it against the opponent because it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Then the
Yes. Very
parts,
good.
that's the point. Because
Mm-hmm.
look, I give an example. The Quran is a book of guidance for mankind, but you have an atheist telling you it doesn't make sense. Yeah, because you claim there's angels keeping you alive and around you. The atheists will tell you, so you believe in spooky shit.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? They
Mm-hmm.
think it's a spooky story things because that's the point.
Yes.
So you serving your God, you know what it takes to have the sufficient knowledge you need to serve your God. That's why God keeps placing emphasis about not following what we do not know.
Mm.
Right? You need to know what you're practicing.
Yes.
You need to know what you're following.
Mm.
The question is, I know I have a soul, but have I seen my soul before? The answer is no. So in
Mm.
this instance, since I know I have a soul, because I'm alive, that's why I know. But I've not seen it before. So I believe it is there. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm still alive. So believing in God, because we never seen God. We just found ourselves in a book speaking to me, telling me that's God speaking. So I need to
Mm-hmm.
put the book to the test.
Yes.
The book is telling me every soul will taste death. And it's a reality. Since creation, we see people dying. We don't see the
Mm-hmm.
ones dying coming back. We don't see it.
Yes. That's correct.
You see, so this convinces me that, okay, and God says there's a fixed time. When the time is up, it doesn't care whether you have an appointment with a lawyer, with the president. God doesn't care. You just go. And we've seen it. It's a reality. We've seen people who have
Mm-hmm.
appointments the next day and they are dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a reality. So whatever God tells you shall come to pass. You have to witness
Mm-hmm.
it. It's the
Right.
truth. So people will say, okay, in the Quran, they are not prophecies. God is telling you what is going to happen on the day of judgment. Even though we tell God he should make the world good for us and the hereafter good for us. Because remember, this is not your first place. You came from somewhere.
Yes.
You understand? So same way you will leave and go to another realm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a transit zone. That's why there's a time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time bomb on it. When the time is up, you have to leave.
Yes.
So somebody else has to come. Just like the trains, the buses, we enter, the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. You enter, you step down, next person climbs in and
Mm-hmm.
continue his journey. When the time is up, he steps down.
Yes.
This is the cycle we have. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
transit. So the one who put you in that transit zone will bring you back to where
Mm-hmm.
you originally came from.
Mm-hmm.
So that now he can put you in another place again. Because
Mm-hmm.
first of all, he decided to bring you to Earth. He could have taken you to Jupiter or Mars or somewhere else. But he
Mm-hmm.
decided this is where you belong, Earth. He brought you here. You see, so when it comes to the matters of the Hadith, first of all, the real Hadith is the book of God. That is what we
Yes.
call Al-Hadith.
Yes.
Because
But
whenever,
the Quran calls it itself the hadith.
yes,
Yes.
the Quran calls itself the Hadith. And it
Mm-hmm.
again calls itself this Hadith. So Quran chapter
Mm-hmm.
39, verse 23, it says the best Hadith. Quran
Mm-hmm.
chapter 68, verse 44, it says this hadith. Quran chapter 52, verse 34, it says, let them bring an hadith like it if they should.
Mm-hmm.
Quran chapter 4, verse 87, woman asdaku minallahi haditha, who is more truthful than God in hadith?
Mm-hmm.
That is in discussion or in a discourse. Who is more truthful?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You take the hadith of Musa, it's found in the Quran chapter 20, verse 9. The narrations concerning Musa is there. So
Mm-hmm.
concerning Joseph, you read chapter 12, you read up to verse 111. It tells you
Mm-hmm.
this is not a fabricated hadith. It's a
Mm-hmm.
discourse. So
Mm-hmm.
then, because God of all people knows that people will fabricate other things and call it hadith.
Mm-hmm.
So he knowing the timeline and knowing his infinite wisdom, he already gave the position to the Quran. Then in
Mm-hmm.
Quran chapter 17, verse 9, it says, indeed, this Quran guides to that which is more appropriate. Now,
Yes.
this ends the argument. Because if God puts the Quran in a superlative form and tells you this Quran guides to that which is more appropriate, it means
Mm-hmm.
anything else you boast of is a waste of time.
Yes.
Because I
Mm-hmm.
would rather choose more appropriate than to go relying. But it doesn't mean I cannot get something appropriate also.
Mm.
However,
So,
God put it, yes.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm sorry if there's something else you want to say. Go on. I just had
Uh-huh.
a response.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean
Go on.
out there you cannot get something which is good. You can get something which is
Mm-hmm.
good. We know this. People can go to even the Bible. Me for instance, I take some words of wisdom from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I open it. I take chunks that I appreciate. But when people tell me, "Oh, God says this," that's where I have the contention.
Mm-hmm.
Aha.
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to prove to me how God said that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Aha. So this is the point.
Yes.
So if somebody wants to take the books of Hadith and thinks there's something of knowledge and they can benefit from, I have no objection to that. But that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
stop me from saying this is garbage or trash. To me, it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What I think has happened with regard to this hadith and the state of the ummah at present, and not just at present, but this has been an ongoing sort of devolution of, how shall I say, distraction. Okay. It's a devolution of distraction. Devolution is a word that means spreading out,
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of
Develop.
spreading out. It spreads out from a central authority. And I say, well, okay, well, this is a devolution of distraction. Because if it's not the best, and the Quran is the best, then it's, and if people are preoccupied with something that's, as you say, out of the trash heap,
Exactly. So that is
then this is a distraction, and it's certainly not the best, you see.
that is
So, yeah, go ahead.
that-
Um, I, if you have more time, I would like to entertain some questions from our
sure.
guests.
Sure. I
Um,
think I think we can go for like 2 hours because we've already done like 1 hour already.
okay, well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Uh, Alhamdulillah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, uh, kind of, I don't know how you can raise your hand here, but I'm not a techie here, but let yourself be known to Sister Amina. She's kind of handling the back end here. And we'll turn your mic on and your camera and ask away. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a question for Baba, it can also be a question for me. But I prefer that you ask Baba why we have him here. Okay. So, can we do that?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you have a question, let's do it. Um, Anybody?
Yeah.
So, well, I asked you if someone has a question, they'll make themselves known soon, within a minute or so. I asked you a general statement, and it's a sort of a general statement because I don't want to be like the seductive psychologist and sort of give you a leading statement. That's why I want to know. Well, what do you think is the state of the ummah? And it appears to me that the madrasas are not helping. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
That they are only helping people to become programmed and puppets. That's all.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So for instance, I didn't take my kids to the madrasa. I've seen the protocols they follow, and I've seen the
Hmm.
style they teaching people. They teach kids in a brainwashed fashion.
Hmm.
Do you see? So when your kids start going to the madrasa, they become argumentative towards the parent.
Hmm.
So from home, I try to teach my kids from home.
Hmm.
Right? When my daughter sees me reading, studying the Quran, she asks me what I studying. I tell her, come and sit down. I read some story to her. I say, does it make sense? And then she'll say, no. And I say, yeah, let me explain again. It will make sense. So when I explained, then she was like, yeah, yeah, it makes sense. So Then I teach her certain things that, because the most important education is to teach people how to use their intelligence in the first place,
Yes.
not just
Yes.
to read things like parrots and repeat things and memorize things. No.
Mm-hmm.
So the fashion in which, because I've been to the madrasa before back in my country, so I
Mm-hmm.
know the systems they use and how they indoctrinate people.
Yes.
And then they enslave your mindset. What they keep putting in the madrasas in the heart of the people is the love of the prophet more than anything. They tell
Mm-hmm.
you love the prophet more than anything. They say don't
Mm-hmm.
allow anybody to say anything about the prophet in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
But when the prophet was alive in the Quran during his time, the Arabs were always insulting him.
Mm-hmm.
Quran chapter 9, verse 61, they told him he is all ears. We find that in the Quran is there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They insult him. Quran chapter 33, verse 57. And then God says, those who insult or offend the prophet and the messenger of God, God is going to
Mm-hmm.
deal with them and they will go to hell. So it is God going to deal. He never said you should deal with somebody when the
Mm-hmm.
prophet is being. So it doesn't actually mean, okay, somebody should go and exalt the prophet. That's not what I mean. But the point is, when they are trying to make it as if, even if you're telling the truth about the prophet, people make it like you
Mm-hmm.
hate. So this is how people have been programmed. So this is
Oh.
the dangers of what the madrasa does.
Mm.
However, if people know how to differentiate seeking knowledge and being indoctrinated, then that is
Mm-hmm.
the best aspect. How? Why
Mm.
am I saying this? I rather prefer people to go for Arabic online studies or studies that
Mm-hmm.
go about being taught Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Did
Mm-hmm.
you see the difference?
Yes.
Because for instance, I normally tell the Christians this. I say most of the Christians today read English Bible, right? English versions of the
Mm-hmm.
Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So some Christians actually don't know that the New Testament they are following was originally written in Greek language. They don't know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I tell them, when before you started studying the Bible, you actually went to study English first
Mm-hmm.
before you started studying the Bible. You didn't go to the school to be taught Bible. You started with English language.
Mm-hmm.
The English language is what you are going to utilize to understand the English Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So same way, if you want to teach your kids about Islam, you teach them from home, and then you let them learn the language in which you want them to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is Arabic language, take them to Arabic language course. Don't take them to any Islamic, so-called Islamic Arabic lessons.
I see. Why do
Uh-huh.
you say that? Why do you say that?
Good, because the version of Islam they teach is a corrupted version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they teach the kids the correct corrupted version of Islam. Yeah, they don't teach the
Mm-hmm.
real one. Back in my days in the 90s, coming to the early 2000s, when I was in the madrasa, they were teaching us how to memorize and recite the Quran. That's all. They don't teach you the
Mm-hmm.
meanings of the Quran itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start teaching you the fiqh, the and other things.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they do.
I met many Hafiz when I was in Malaysia who could memorize, they could recite, but they couldn't tell me what it meant. You see, and
So
I was really, as a medical doctor, and I retired from medicine. I made the transition to academic positions. I was actually I wasn't practicing medicine, but in one school, in one university, I was giving medical lectures and that sort of thing. But most of my work had to do with uh, editing the English translations of this, that, and the next thing. And of course, they're almost all the non-native speakers. So I was very happy to hear, oh, well, here's a Malay student who memorized the Quran and they recited this beautiful Arabic. And I said, oh, well, I'm still learning the Quran. What does it mean? And they couldn't tell me. You see, they
yeah,
couldn't tell me. Then, as
and
far as go ahead.
the reason to that is
Hmm.
just as I explained to you prior to your statement. It is they are being indoctrinated and to become puppets. So they
Hmm.
just memorize things without actually being told what they are memorizing.
Mm.
or without being taught the essence or the essential part of what they are being taught.
Hmm.
You see the problem. So
Yes.
I was somewhat of a critical person when I was in the madrasa back in my day. When in my youthful age, I questioned. I asked relevant questions.
Do you still have the bruises?
Well, I got some bruises, yeah, here there, but I wasn't the kind of bad student. I was a smart student, by the way.
Uh-huh.
But
Yes.
yes, I got some bruises from coming maybe how will I say, from missing a class.
Hmm.
uh, it got to a point I was nearly being whipped by my teacher, and the classroom stood up for me. They said if I have to
Oh.
be punished, they all have to be punished. And whenever
Oh.
there's an
Wow.
exam, I'm always one of the top three students. Whenever there's an exams,
Mm.
so I was fortunate to be on the learning side. I wasn't a
Hmm.
lazy student, right? So I've learned very well. But thanks to what I thank God for is I wasn't an extremist when it comes to the religious aspect. Even
How did
though,
you avoid that? How did
uh,
you avoid that? I mean, how did you avoid becoming an extremist? I mean, was this something that someone else cautioned you about, or was it just
it is about addiction. It's like addiction. When you get
ah?
addicted to whatever you are in, that's when you
Hmm.
become extreme. So that's why the word
Ah,
extremist is
yes.
implemented.
Okay. Hmm.
So it means you get so much into it, so you
Hmm.
start going to the direction. So I was categorizing myself as a Sunni back in the days, but I wasn't a deep practitioner of Sunni
Hmm.
religion. You see, so
Hmm.
I was just following the group calling myself a Sunni. But as a
Hmm.
matter of fact, the madrasa I went was a Shia madrasa.
Oh,
Yeah. And it got to a point I was confused where I belong. So I was trying to
I
choose.
bet you were.
Yeah, yeah, I was confused. I was trying to choose which side I belong.
Mm.
So I was critically sitting down asking questions. So I stopped going to the madrasa when my mind became clear enough. I stopped.
Hmm.
But I didn't, even though I stopped, I didn't get the guidance till I came to Europe.
Hmm.
Then I actually got the guidance from God. That,
Mm.
yeah, this is the reason for the critical thinking I was having. You know,
Can you tell us how that happened? I mean, what you say you received guidance? How did that happen?
I received guidance through like dreams. I'll be sleeping and seeing in dreams, seeing people in
Hmm.
hell, people
Hmm.
struggling. And according to the dream, God has to use me to save people from going to the hellfire.
I see.
Right. So I was seeing, and I wake up from sleep, and I'm having tears in my eyes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Whenever I wake up, I have tears in my eyes.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I keep questioning God, like, God, why? Why am I seeing this kind of dreams? And it's
Hmm.
happened during Ramadan in 2010.
Hmm.
So then I prayed to God. I told God, if you are trying to use me for something, please give me the courage to stand for this.
Hmm.
So this is when I started telling my loved ones, those closer to me, that this is what God wants me to be and what God wants me to do.
Hmm.
You
Hmm. You
understand?
know, psychologists think that you and I, people like us who get these dreams and then we share that with our loved ones, they think we're crazy.
Uh-huh.
And people like us have been locked up in the past. Are you expecting that to happen?
Uh, Meaning, you mean, am I expecting what to happen?
Are you expecting someone to come knock on the door and arrest you because you're crazy? I mean, you think God talks to you, so and you talk to
Oh
Him,
no, I
and
wouldn't. I wouldn't say talk to me per se. I saw a dream.
well, that's a form of communication. So
Yeah,
that's
it's a communication, and
yeah.
you know, you don't give the wrong people a message.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So imagine going to a doctor or going to a scientist to just say
Hmm.
God showed you a revelation. Like they will not
Hmm.
take you seriously. They're like, what? They think maybe you're having a hallucinations or something.
Hmm. Yes, of course.
So in order for it to come to fruition, God has to use you to show to the people what He actually shown you. So
Mhm.
it goes to it goes to a point. There are certain things I've seen in my dream. It came to pass. When I tell people, it happened.
Yes.
Yeah, they saw it. My brother saw it. A lot of my loved ones. Those who still follow my lectures today, some of the those based in Europe but are closer to me, they follow what they because in the beginning they were having somewhat of a doubt. They're like,
Yeah.
so when I started to predict those things by telling them how God will is showing me certain things, when I told them, they saw it. They start to see it in reality. So it wasn't like I was just seeing some spooky thing or confused. No. So even though I was questioned, right? And then I remember somebody calling the police for me, right? And the reason is they called the police because I told them, why do you have excess of food and you're throwing it away? And yet there are a lot of people out there struggling to find food. And I said, God doesn't like that. So when I used God doesn't like that, the person would call the police and said I threatened them. I threatened her with with God.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah. That's the only thing I said. I said God doesn't like that. And I said, beware, if God has to punish you, he will make sure you don't have food for a long time.
Yes, I
So
see.
she got offended. She called the police on me. The police came. I said, ask her, did I threaten her? The answer is no. Did I say? Then they said, you threatened her with God. And I said, how is that part of a law? How does it say like, if I tell somebody like you're wasting food, so God can punish you with that, how is it a threat?
Yes.
You know, so I was taken to the police, and then the police took me to the police hospital, and I met, yeah, to be honest, and I met some few
Yes.
doctors,
Yes. That
and
happened
they,
to me when I was in the army. They arrested me
uh-huh.
for something
So
similar.
they
Yeah.
made me meet some police doctors, and then I predicted whatever the outcome of the interactions was before it ended. I told them, you write that I'm okay. I'm okay. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with me. So they will ask me a question. Then they ask me, what day is today? I say Monday. What day is yesterday? I'll say Tuesday. Like we keep going like that. So I will mention the right days like that. And then the doctor will write and say, okay, you're okay. They took me to the MRI to check.
Yes.
I was okay. They try a lot of things. I was okay. So one of the workers, I actually told him he's going to see uh, a vision. And I told him what the outcome of the vision will be. And God bear me witness. He came back looking, staring at me because I told him when it happens, he will come to me without saying a word.
Yeah.
And it happened. So when he saw it, he knocked on my door. I opened and he was just looking at me, staring at me without saying a word. So I told him, I called his name Johannes. I said, I understand you. I said, you saw it. So you don't need to explain. It's okay. And then he left. So a lot of the things that God showed me was part of people who were around me actually witnessed it. They saw it. So
I
that
see.
that was what cleared the way for me. That they finally realized I wasn't crazy. I know whatever I was saying. Yeah, I knew there was nothing wrong with me. So then I realized you don't use God's message to tell to the wrong people. Yes, they will never take you serious. They will think you're crazy, and that's why the prophet was called a madman in the Quran.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that's
Well,
it.
let's go back to the madrasa. It looks like our listeners just want to listen, so that's just fine with me. Um,
Let me address this. I think
yeah.
somebody wrote. He says the necklace
Oh.
that Baba is wearing right now is an African shirk. Then he says, be careful, brothers in Islam."
Oh, I see. I didn't see the. I had my.
I
Oh.
don't know whose account is that.
I don't know. I don't like it how they equate the prophet with the creator. This is sure. Okay, I think the same. Let's run. Not every Muslim scholar is qualified for tafsir. The necklace that Baba is wearing right now is an African shirt. Be careful, brothers in Islam. Well, I don't know. I don't. Why
Yeah,
would you say that? You think?
there is some truth to what he said, right?
Uh
In
huh.
Africa, some people use
Yes, of
necklace
course.
like a beads where they put
Yes.
charms like amulets,
Yes, of
and
course.
they use. But there's a difference to this with that. There's a
Mm-hmm.
difference. They
Mm-hmm.
use. those amulets and they go for charms and put it inside.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
So that is true.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the brother is maybe cautioning people, but that you have to go to the spiritualist, that's the traditionalist, to actually acquire it or get it from them. That is the one they use for the charms, not just any
Mm-hmm.
necklace. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have. I mean, it's just jewelry, and there's nothing wrong with jewelry. It is. Um, I have a question about cults. Uh, have you seen? I mean, I've studied a bit of the Islamic history, and I know a little bit about the origins of the Fatimid cult, which then sort of modified itself and became part of the Shia cult. And I'm just wondering if you've seen any kind of infiltration of the madrasa system or the system of worship, be it masjid or otherwise. Have you seen any evidence of this by outsiders trying to come in and subvert what little is left of Islam and make the Ummah even more confused?
Uh, you see, lately there has been a lot of converts or reverts in Islam, or converts,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. People
Yes.
coming from the Christian faith a lot of times and saying they
Mm-hmm.
are part of Islam, and that's but actually they go to the Arabs,
Mm-hmm.
that they claim they are now Muslim. They will be given platforms to speak, and they will now take up the narrative and start telling to the people. Like we have people like Bilal Phillips. We have people like uh, there's a whole list of them. I don't know if I have the list, but I can mention
Mm-hmm.
some of them. Let me see if I have the list here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the rivets we have. There's Omar Dexter. There's Yusuf Chambers. There's Musa Serantino. There's Joshua Evans, Siraj Wahaj, Shuaib Webb, Terry Holdbrooks, Abdullah Al Faisal, Khalid Yassin, Yusuf Estes,
Mm-hmm.
Hussein Yi, Abdurrahim Green, Hamza Yusuf,
Mm-hmm.
there's Mohammed Tim Humble, and the list of them. They
Mm-hmm.
do. These people have been brought, and in such a way that they are carrying the narrative in such a direction
Mm-hmm.
that gives them such an authority to actually mislead the masses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to mislead the masses. And when it comes to the aspect of masjids, right?
Mm-hmm.
These masjid are being put in the hands of these people to become leaders. So they go there in the Jum'ah when it comes to the Friday prayer, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Those people will go and give the khutbah. So they
Mm-hmm.
propagate a certain version of Islam to these
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
And people are not actually realizing that these people are actually perverting the deen. Like they're putting the deen in a wrong direction.
I see.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
They have made Islam to be about the prophet instead of Islam being about God.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is about the sayings, hadiths, narrations, hearsays,
Mm-hmm.
all over. You go to the
Mm-hmm.
masjid, if you see a masjid belonging to a Sunni Shia without the name of Muhammad in the masjid, that masjid is not considered a masjid. You have to put Muhammad's name there.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
it has become even in Saudi Arabia, the Mecca, the Kaaba, the cube, they
Mm-hmm.
put Muhammad's name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is what they do, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Islam has become something more of a Muhammad religion instead of
Mm-hmm.
belonging to God.
Yeah, yeah, that's a bit sad. Um, oh, there we go with the question. Let me read it for you. From my understanding, deceptive knowledge is the forbidden kind, the type of knowledge that can mislead, and it causes corruption. Now, I do wonder what about the books Solomon hid under the temple? Why didn't he burn those books if they were evil and dangerous? Uh, I don't know very much about the books. I've read a bit here and there about them, but I'm not sure what those books were, if they existed, and if they were found. What was this all about, in your estimation? If you know anything about it, if you can comment on it from a position of knowledge.
According to God, whenever people hide something, there's something valuable. That's why we hide it.
There's something what?
There's something valuable.
Valuable. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
If there's nothing valuable in the item, you don't hide it. You
Mm-hmm.
throw it away
Mm-hmm.
or you burn it. Everything which is valuable in life, you hide it. It's either you are hiding it to cause mischief or you are hiding it because you don't want people to be enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the point? So
Yes.
that's the point. So when we say uh, hide, and people will tell you the Romans, the Catholic are hiding books.
Mm-hmm.
Go there, they have these archives where they have a lot of books. If it is a useless book, why are they keeping it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It means there's something which will be needed in the future,
Mm-hmm.
right? People hide treasures, people hide gold, money, and so on because it is
Mm-hmm.
valuable. That's why you hide it. So
Mm-hmm.
you hide it and then use it at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Aha. You hide it and then you use it at the right time. So whenever the stories come up, of course, the Quran doesn't mention that information that Suleiman hid some books. No,
Mm-hmm.
it Quran never mentioned that. But
Mm-hmm.
if it has to do with the book of God, why would Solomon hide it? Is it the book of God?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is no. The book of God, the prophets don't hide it. They have to give it to
Mm-hmm.
the people.
Mm-hmm.
So it has nothing to do with God. It might be something of his benefit or something that he wants the later generations to know after, because if he
Mm-hmm.
hide it, then he knows when it's no more, people will find it. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't hide some things forever. People will find it eventually.
Yes. Are there any more questions from anyone for our dear guest here, Brother Shuaib? I have one. If you don't, I.
PR says so that is not mentioned in the Quran. No, it's not mentioned in the Quran that Solomon hid some books. No.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't seem to be able to pull up these questions. In any case, um, yeah, I don't recall. I mean, I'm not a Quran expert, and I don't recall it from there. I remember reading it someplace else, and there are still stories about um, the Templars finding something of value and bringing it to Europe, and then uh, turning it into something that has to do with the Grail mysteries and all this sort of thing. I'm interested in those things only because of their effect on the historical development of the European civilization, and some of what it has an effect on the New World Order system of government right now. Which brings me to my next question, because which has to do with the Jum'ah. You
Yeah.
see, what in your estimation? I don't want your opinion. In your estimation, you must have given this some thought, I'm sure, and some study. What was the purpose of the Jum'ah? What is the purpose of the Jum'ah?
When you take the Quran, chapter 62, verse 9, in the Quran, when we say Jum'ah, is congregation.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the chapter 62 is Al Jum'ah, which means the congregation.
Mm-hmm.
However, people have created a parallel religion whereby they've introduced a different version and calling it Salatul Jum'ah, meaning the prayer, the congregational prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Such thing does not exist in the Quran.
It's not in the Quran.
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Chapter 62, verse 9 doesn't say Jum'ah prayer. No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say congregational prayer. No, it doesn't. So it is a formulated version of prayer. They formulated from their books, just like they have the Eid prayer, the
Mm-hmm.
festival, the prayer of the festival, the Eid
Mm-hmm.
al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. Those prayers are not
Mm-hmm.
in the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
They have the prayer for eclipse. When there's an eclipse of the sun and the moon, they go to the masjid
Mm-hmm.
to pray. It's not in the Quran. They
Mm-hmm.
have the prayer and say this is a prayer for the dead. It's not in the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
They call it Salat al Janaza.
Mm-hmm.
Salat al Janaza means the funeral prayer. It's not in the Quran. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing called funeral prayer in the Quran. So
Mm-hmm.
they've formulated a lot of salats or prayers which have nothing to do with God. It's just a matter of understanding. So when you take Quran chapter 62, verse 9, God is just talking about the regular salat that he has appointed for the people to establish,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that regular prayer on the day of sales, when people are doing sales, when there's a sale going on, when you are invited in a group to come and perform the salat, you have to leave the sale and go for the salat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you are in a, let's say, in an amusement park or a playground or a congregational place whereby there's some business going on, and
Mm-hmm.
then there happens to be believers establishing salat next to you, and you are invited, you are called.
Mm-hmm.
According to God, you have to leave the sale or whatever you are doing and go to attend to the salat.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing like in that verse where it says Salat al Jum'ah, where it
Mm-hmm.
says Friday prayer or congregational prayer. No, it doesn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of understanding. People are twisting the verses of God to let it mean something which is actually not in the verses.
So then, what the Jum'ah itself is just a gathering of people to discuss what?
No,
Politics
no.
and
The
what?
gathering, the gathering is not for people. The gathering is about sale and entertainment and business going on. That's the gathering.
Mm.
Yeah. It's just like today when you have amusement park. In amusement park, there's a gathering. People having entertainment, people doing their business, people doing a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things. You go to the
Mm-hmm.
shopping mall, there are a lot of things going on at the same time, right? There's a sale
Okay.
going
Yes.
on, there's
Mm-hmm.
entertainment going on in the shopping malls.
Sure.
So then, whilst you are there and it's time for the salat and you are invited, meaning you have to stop the sale you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and attend to the remembrance of God because salat is only going to be used to remember God.
Mm-hmm. I see. Well, then this reference that they make, Salat al Jum'ah, this is a gathering specifically for prayer. Is that the correct understanding of it's in English what Jum'ah as-salat
Yeah, the
means?
word Jum'ah means congregation or gathering.
All right, congregation for prayer, but this is not something that the Quran requires.
No.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I have videos I made on it, throwing the challenge out there that any scholar or any
Mm-hmm.
person who says this, that's kind of salat in the Quran, I would love to have
Mm-hmm.
a dialogue with them. Not
Oh,
necessarily
I
a
see.
debate. Debate is a waste of time. I'll prefer dialogue where we go one on one, and the person
Yes.
has to prove to us where it
Mm-hmm.
says Friday prayer or
Mm-hmm.
congregational prayer. There is no such thing as that.
Well, they've attached all sorts of benefits to it for some reason or other. I suppose that's seductive. I mean, it's really a nice idea to think you can, well, not nice, but it's comfortable for some people to think that they can sin all week and go to prayer on Friday and get their sins forgiven. I've heard Muslims say, "Well, I can't miss Jummah because I really sinned this week, so I got to go." And
Yeah.
I've heard Muslims actually say that. Have you? I mean, is this common?
They say it from the Hadith books. It's the Hadith perspective. From the Hadith books, they will say when you sin, when you go to the Juma prayer, you go early, you start from the time the khutbah starts till the end, and you get the salat. All your
Hmm.
sins from that week will be forgiven.
Hmm.
So it actually encourages people to be vile and evil.
Yes, that's what
Yes.
I
And then
thought.
they will wait till Friday. And that's why the Friday prayers get full. The masjids get very full.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So they've created a parallel religion where they are actually telling people things that doesn't exist in the book of God. Yeah,
Hmm.
it doesn't. It never exists in the book of God. So that is the problem. They
I
lie to
see.
the masses, and the masses don't want to check. So When I'm talking to people and I said there is nowhere in the Quran where it says Salatul Jum'ah or congregational prayer, people people get stunned. People are stunned. They are
Mm-hmm.
confused. They are like, "What do you mean there is no Juma prayer in the Quran?" And I say,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, you show me a verse." So when they open the verse and I say, "Read it," they read it three times. They get confused,
Mm-hmm.
and they are
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
and I ask them, "Does it say Salatul Juma?"
Mm-hmm.
They are still confused. They are like,
Yeah.
"Okay, it says Min Yawmil Juma." It says when invited to the salat or when called to the salat, then it
Mm-hmm.
is from the day of congregation. So when you are invited to the salat from the day of congregation,
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Day of congregation.
yes, because the day of gathering, there's a gathering going on. That gathering going on is about sale. Then God says, leave the sale.
Mm. Oh,
When
I see.
aha,
So I see. This was a cultural thing then. Uh,
exactly.
I see.
Every
Okay.
every civilization
Nothing to
has
do with religion. So
no,
I
nothing
see.
to do with
Mm-hmm.
really no. So you
Mm-hmm.
leave the sale that you have on that day.
Mm-hmm.
I leave it and then go to attend to the remembrance and go and talk and go and remember God. And then after you go
Yes.
back to do whatever you want. Because when it's done, it has a timeline. So when it's done, you go and do your thing. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But people think, oh, Friday. There's nothing like Friday in the Quran. It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see.
And
I
even what
see.
they call the Sabbath day was only appointed for the children of Israel. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sabbath day is not for everybody. Where you hear the Hadith people say, "Oh, the Islamic Sabbath day is Friday." That's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Quran never said there's something called Islamic Sabbath day. Actually, the
Mm-hmm.
children of Israel were also Muslims. They are not anything than Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
However, among the children of Israel, some call themselves Christians and some call themselves Jews.
Yes.
Yeah, but children of Israel is based on the tribe. They are tribal nations. They are not just a religious group or something. No. So it
Mm-hmm.
is out of them that people created Christianity. Out of them, people created Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing of that sort. So when we
I
say
see.
Yom al Jum'ah, it is the day of congregation or
Day of
gathering.
congregation. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would like to explore that a little bit further, perhaps in detail, but I don't want to wear our listeners out. And you have some questions that you have to see to, and I have some other things I have to attend to as well. And someone has just called me a perennialist. Wow, I've never been called a perennialist before. I have written about them, but I have never been called a perennialist before, which leads me to believe that whoever's making that statement about me doesn't know what a perennialist really is. Um, in the sense that, look, Islam has been given for all of mankind. Al
Yeah.
Quran has been given for all of mankind. So I, I ascribe to that, and I ascribe to the fact that hey, this wasn't the first time that the message has come for all of mankind. I don't think that at all. If there has been so many prophets, and I had a vision where I think I saw most of them in the
Yeah.
vision, and there were a lot. And I mean, I had one day, when I was about 28 years old, the heaven opened up to me while I was walking. I was on my way to get drunk,
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you the truth. And the heaven just opened up in front of me, and I saw all these people, men, women, from all cultures, all time periods. And they were all just looking at me. And the look was very, very intent. There was no word, no music, nothing spoken. It's just this vision. It lasted maybe, I don't know, about a minute or so. So I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, Baba. It's been my impression that prophets have come to all people several times all over the earth throughout time. and they're as different as the trees are different from each other, but they're all, you know, root, trunk, stems,
Yeah.
branches,
Branches.
leaves, fruits. But they're all different kinds of trees, and
Yeah.
they all produce good fruit.
Yeah.
Allah doesn't make a tree that produces good and bad fruit. Only men do that, as far as I'm concerned. So, in that sense, I'm a universalist, okay? Because I want to go and I want to listen to someone who knows. I have a friend uh, here who I'm going to spend some time with, and he has what they call one of these timeless memories, and he knows a lot of the histories that are unwritten. They're oral histories and they can be memorized, and they are memorized and handed down from tradition to traditions. And I've examined him on several points, and there's some things which he's not quite right about, but that's only because he hasn't been informed. Okay. But the things that he knows, I've checked with him, and I checked on some of his things historically, and they're very sound. And then he expands on these historical occurrences, which can be established. No, no, not all history can be established. So
Yeah.
to call me a perennialist is a little bit short sighted. Okay. Perennialists, to the best of my knowledge, they grew out of a uh, sort of a Marinol movement, Mariolatry, if you will, out of the an errant Freemasonic lodge in Europe just over 100 years ago or so. And you have Friedhof Schön, and he's a known worshiper of Mary. If you go to any of his shrines or groups that still carry him as a prophet, if you will,
Mm.
you see his picture on the wall, and there'll be a picture of Mary, the mother of Jesus, there as well. You see,
Mhm.
and they're ordered as part of their perennialist creed to pray to Mary, just like Jesuits are. You see, so
Mhm.
don't call me a perennialist. You don't know what you're talking about. First of all, whoever you are, uh, Murad, Ashraf Murad. So please don't be offended. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. I know a little bit more about that than you do. And I'm sure that Baba does as well. But let's make an end of this. And I want to thank you very much, Baba, for joining us. And I hope we can do this again sometime. I
Yeah.
don't want to do it too
Gladly.
frequently. We all have lives to live, and I don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
spend hours and hours on the internet doing these sort
Yeah.
of things.
I
But
understand.
when you have time, and if the spirit moves you, let me know. We'll schedule another one, and maybe once a month we can do something like this.
Oh,
I
sure.
think I
Sure.
think
Sure.
that would be very helpful.
I'm open for that. So, of course, once in a month, it will not be difficult. Of course, I can find time in between where we
Very
can.
good.
Yeah. So I'm
Very
open.
good. Well, let's try and schedule another one for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I'll try to invite. I didn't have much time to prepare or get people informed. I'm not that good at doing that.
Uh-huh.
I'm not a marketing fella. So I'll try to prepare a few more people to get involved in a conversation, a dialogue,
Yeah.
more questions, and let's see if we can carry this conversation further and expound upon it, and do what we can to spread the truth, and make sure that we're in the right place when we kneel on that
Yeah.
day of judgment,
Yeah.
in the right grace, inshallah.
Yeah. Inshallah. Inshallah. That would be nice. I think somebody was. I think
Mhm.
Alginko is saying next time you can have Baba's channel live on YouTube too.
Oh, yes, yes. Can we
Uh-huh.
do that?
Sure, sure. We can stream live, but I don't know. Normally, after this, you
Hmm.
normally put it on your YouTube, or is it on YouTube right
No, no. What we will do is we'll download it. We have to modify it a bit, and then upload it to YouTube, and we'll make sure that you get a copy. Send Amina your email so we can chat.
I think Amina
No?
has it. Last time she sent me the last one we did, right?
Okay.
She sent me. But
Okay.
I
Very
think
good.
Al Ginkgo, the one with the Al Ginkgo account is just talking about the YouTube
Yes.
stream. I think the live stream. I think
Yes.
we are not doing this
We,
live. It will be a replay, right?
well, this I'm not sure if she streamed it live today or not, but
Uh-huh.
we can do that on a continuum. There are certain things that need to be done at the back end that I don't know
Uh-huh.
about.
Okay. She said
Hmm.
yes.
Hmm.
Is
Okay,
it
very
stream
good.
live? So let me check.
Oh, it is live on YouTube. Well, thank you very much, dear sister. That's wonderful. Well, we'll do this again in another 3 or 4 weeks as Allah leads
Oh
us.
yeah, it's actually live. I didn't know about this. I could have shared it to my audience. I didn't know at all.
Oh, I see. Well, get in touch with Amina so that we can open up a channel of communication so miscommunications don't happen so often, and we can clarify anything that needs to be clarified before we
Yeah,
actually go live, inshallah.
I think there was a missing link because
Hmm.
we had a lot of people on YouTube actually
Hmm.
writing questions, asking a lot of things, right?
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
whilst we were just stuck in between. So I didn't know because I
Okay.
thought we were doing it in a similar fashion like before.
Ah, okay.
Uh-huh. So
Well,
I thought it would be a
mhm,
replay. So I didn't even get the chance to alert my audience that
mhm.
we are streaming.
Well,
It's not bad. Yeah.
no, no. My apologies to everyone. We'll get round to your questions and answers maybe next time around.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for
Yeah,
joining
you're
us,
welcome. You're
and
welcome.
may it please Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to prosper us all and
Inshallah.
to
God willing.
increase us in knowledge and in grace.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Wassalamu alaikum, dear brother.
Thank you all. Peace be to you all. Salam alaikum. Yeah.
Okay, brother. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Okay, are we still on? The recorder stopped. All right, very good. All right, I'm going to sign out then.